Man, I cannot believe I have to re-record this whole entire thing. Oh no! Alright, this is going to be the fast version because I spent 30 minutes explaining this whole story and now it's gone. Poof! Poof! Computer says eat file. I eat file! Which is normally not a bad thing, but I spent 30 minutes on this, recording it. Ah! Alright, anyhow. So here's what happened. God, I have to tell the whole story all over again. Fudge. Oh, man. Alright, so here's the story. I'm playing a D&D campaign. I'm the DM. I have 3 players. An elven wizard, a human bard, and a tabaxi cleric, follower of Loki. He's a trickster. I'm going to give you the scene. I'm not going to give you the whole lead up. I'm just going to tell you what happened. My players were thrown in a dungeon. They were charged with crimes. Their items were taken away and put in a chest. They were walked through the fort because they were under arrest, and they were sentenced to go down to the prison because the hearing would be the next day. And the judge didn't have time for them. He said put them in the prison cell for the night. There were 3 of them. Each had their own cell. 1, 2, and 3, side by side, straight line. They were not searched. Their bags were taken away. And I asked them, I said, how are you going to get out of this? I honestly did not know. I truly had no clue how they were going to get out of this situation. Their bags were taken away. They've lost their stuff so many times that they've learned to hide one item on their body somewhere so that if they do if they do lose all their items again, they're not completely screwed. The wizard keeps his arcane focus. The priest keeps his divine focus. The bard keeps his flute somewhere. But anyhow, and they weren't searched anyhow. They were just thrown in prison cells, and their bags were thrown into a chest nearby. And the challenge was, how are you going to get out of these prison cells where you can't see each other? So the first thing was, the wizard said, well, I have messenger cantrip. So I'm going to create a message to the tabaxi and then a message to the bard, and basically act as a router, and the 3 of them can have a little whisper network where they can just whisper to one another. I was like, okay, fine. So you've got your ability to communicate. You can whisper to one another, but you can't see each other, but you can whisper to one another. That's fine. And then I literally got up and walked out of the room because I wanted them to figure out on their own how they were going to get out of this situation. Came back into the room and said, okay, what's your plan? Here was their plan. The wizard was going to cast Minor Illusion in front of the gates, the bars in front of the tabaxi's cell. The tabaxi is a main trickery of 2nd level. He can make a duplicate, illusionary duplicate of himself. He was going to make an illusionary duplicate on the other side of the bars and have him run around. Meanwhile, the bard was going to play his flute to give inspiration back to the wizard and at the same time awake the guard who was in the process of falling asleep. They did this. Sets up the illusion. The tabaxi makes his clone, his duplicate, outside, and then the bard plays his musical instrument to wake up the guard. The guard wakes up, sees what's going on, sees the tabaxi running around, chases him, says, what are you doing? Runs after him. Tabaxi runs back into his own cell. The guard runs to his cell to grab the gate. His hand goes through the gate and realizes it's an illusion. And as soon as he's standing there, confused what's going on, that's when the wizard hits him with a sleep spell. And he falls. So now he's fallen asleep in front of the gate. The tabaxi reaches through the bars, reaches over there, grabs his keys, pulls them out, gets himself out. So the 3 are able to get out of the cells this way. I thought it was pretty ingenious. I was like, good. So far, so good. At least you're out now. So they get out. They get all their stuff back. They use their rope. They tie up the guy. They put him in the cell. They leave him. They take his clothes because the bard wanted to be wearing the magister's clothes as they were walking around. So they make it out, and they know that if they go out the way that they came in, there's going to be 4 guards at the gate. Once they get through the gate on the other side, there's 2 on the ground and there's 2 in the archers' towers, right there. And they knew they can't. If they go that way, they're going to get annihilated. So they look down the corridor. on their left, and at the end of the corridor, there was a door that was open, and they could see light coming through. They go down the corridor. They decide this is the way they're going to go. They run all the way down there. They go outside, and it's a garden. And the garden is this beautiful garden, and it overlooks the ocean. And it's a sheer cliff drop straight down from there. And I told them it's 160 feet. Now, there was one magical item that they had. Well, actually, two magical items that they had. The bard has these gloves, and again, I stole this from the video game. I posted about this the other day. That I'm using a lot of the material that's from Divinity Original Sin 2 because I think it's a great game, and I really enjoyed playing it, and I'm enjoying watching my players who've never played it go through the content and go through me mixing in all this additional stuff that's not in the video game, but it's just me just throwing additional crap on top of it. But anyhow, he had gloves of Teleport Friend, which meant, in the way that I wrote up the gloves, was their ally had to be within 20 feet of him. He could pick his ally and then point where he wanted him, and he would teleport up to 120 feet. As long as there's consent, there has to be willfulness. The way I described it was, it's like a pop-up in their mind, and it says, do you accept? And you have to click yes before. There has to be consent, there has to be willfulness. As long as there's willfulness, they'll teleport. But he could not use it on himself. It's always an ally or a friend. It can never be a foe or himself. So that's the way the gloves work. I figured that was fair. It kept balance to the game. He wasn't teleporting himself around, and it was a range and it was a distance. And I thought it would be an interesting way to create three-dimensional puzzles for my players as well. So, in their imagination. So here they are at this cliff, and I described it to them. 160 feet down to the shoreline, all the way down to the shore. And they had no rope. They were like, we're not going to be able to do this. And the wizard, he's not going to be able to make the climb because he has a -2 strength on his modifier is -2. So he would definitely fall. And at 160 feet, he's dead. There's no way. He's not got the hit points to handle that. The Tabaxi could make it a little bit, but he would be rolling on the way, and he would probably take damage. Even though he has climb as an ability, I'm giving him climb checks if he goes beyond his 20 feet movement with advantage, because I figured that would be fair, because he does have climbing as an actual ability. Or he could just go slowly and go at his own movement if he wanted to. Either way, that was fine by me. But the other two didn't know how they were going to get down. So... And they couldn't teleport down, drop the gloves, and come back, for one, because he would be too far down to get, because I said 20-foot range, and if he's teleported him 120 feet, it's not within 20 feet to get the other one back. And the gloves, I said, had attunement, so he had to wear them for 24 hours. So that meant they couldn't just teleport one person down, drop the gloves, and then teleport that. So he knew that wasn't going to work either. So they kept debating how they were going to do this, and they were like, we're going to have to go back through we have no way down safely without one of us dying. And then the bard had this really interesting idea, because previously I told them that they found this potion. They found a gnome. They found his campground. He had been eaten by spiders, and they found his body up in the trees and the webs, and he was full of baby spiders. It was all disgusting, and they had to light it on fire. Anyhow, during a big battle at the gnome's tent that happened previously, the wizard set the tent on fire by accident, and the whole thing burnt down. And when it fell down, it smashed into a chair. The chair had a secret compartment in it, and they found this potion in it, this old, I kept saying old potion. Well, in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, if you taste test a potion, you can typically figure out what it is. And the wizard did this, and he figured out it was a potion of invisibility. And the bard had been holding on to this whole time, because it was in his backpack, and they got their backpacks back once they got out of the prisons. So he said, here's my idea. He was going to teleport the other two one at a time, because I said it was 160 feet. He could go 120 feet, and they would climb the last 40 feet, because that way if they fall, at least they're not going to die. And basically it was up to the wizard to just have to make one check, and if he failed, he was falling, but it wasn't going to be enough to kill him. So the plan was he was going to teleport each one of them down one at a time. I had a cooldown on the gloves. I think it was three turns, which means he just needs to wait like 30 seconds, and they'll be fine. So teleport one, wait 30 seconds, teleport the second one, and then his plan was to drink the potion of invisibility and then sneak back through the fortress invisible, go out the front gate, figure out a way out, and then meet up with them at the base of the fort all the way down at the shore. It seemed like a really good plan, and I sat back and I watched it. But I had already decided one thing. Whoever drank that potion, because I kept telling him it was an old potion, and it was indeed a potion of invisibility. But what I didn't tell them was it had expired, and it was old, and it wasn't going to work right when they drank it. My idea was I stole all this from the game. The game in the game, there's a character called Fane, and he's a living skeleton. I think he's a woken skeleton, and so he's conscious, but he's a living skeleton. Well, I didn't want to deal with turning one of my players into a skeleton because I figured that was way too much. But I love the idea of them drinking a potion and it not working right, and it turns their skin and their organs invisible, but not their bones. So he teleported the first one. He teleported the second one. So now he's alone. He waits for them to climb down. They make it safely. And now he's like, okay, I'm going to drink my potion. Now I'm going to sneak out. He drinks his potion. His skin and his organs turn invisible, but not the rest of him. And he's wearing the Magister's outfit. So he's wearing the red and the gold, uniforms of the Magisters that run this fort. And now he's a living skeleton. And he's like, how am I going to get out? I'm alone. I'm going to get immediately attacked because they're going to see this skeleton walking around and think that I'm just a skeleton and attack me. He's like, I'm dead. I'm so dead. I'm so dead. And then he's like, oh, wait. I have a disguise kit in my bag. I'm going to get the disguise kit out. I'm going to put on a mustache and a fake beard and a hat. And I'm going to just use performance checks to sneak my way, because he's Bard. I'm going to sneak my way out of the fort, and anybody that sees me, I'm going to do a performance check to make it look like I'm just another Magister cutting through. And that was his plan, to make it out of the fort. He made 3 encounters. He had one person randomly walking through, and he had the 2 guards outside. And he made all of his performance checks all the way out, and no one noticed that this person, who was basically a skeleton, walked all the way through the entire fortress, all the way out, and was never detected. I loved it. I thought it was genius. I love the fact that they got themselves out of the prison. I had no clue. I had no idea what they were going to do to get out of it. But it just showed me that my players are problem solvers, and they love puzzles. And the harder the puzzle and the more I challenge them, the more they love it, actually. So they're really enjoying my game. I gave them a challenge where I had no idea how they were going to get out of it, how they were going to get out of the prison cells. And then once they got to the garden, they had no clue how they were going to get out. But they were like, this is it. We're going to figure something out. And the Bard came up with this plan to teleport the other 2 and then drink the potion. And then they didn't see the wrench coming of all of a sudden the potion didn't work the way that they wanted it. And he's like, oh, screw. And he was like, when is this going to wear off? How can I be a bard if I'm a living skeleton? He's gonna let me go into their inn and play music and make money when I'm a living skeleton. Everyone's going. It eventually did wear off. I wanted it to last forever because I wanted it to be like a curse. But I was like, nah, I've got to play somewhat fair. But I did make it last for quite a bit before it wore off. He still hasn't taken his gloves off, so he still doesn't know whether or not his hands are bones or not. He's afraid to take his gloves off and check, which I think is hysterical. Anyhow, that's my game. That's my Dungeons & Dragons. That was my second session DMing with my guys in 5e, 5th edition. And I will be telling more stories as we go along. I'm just really enjoying it.